I have 99 problems, and not one of them has ever been eating a vegetable.
There are a lot of different diets and ways to eat out there, such as, tell me why my brain, the first one it brought from the files was cannibalism? That shouldn't even be on the examples. I apologize, I am unwell. Which is actually why I decided that I wanted to try out the Mediterranean diet in the first place. As many of you are aware, because I have not shut up about it, I have been experiencing an abnormal amount of and upon Blue's Cluesing the situation, I have decided that the problem was hormonal. And so I went on a quest to see if there was any way to balance my hormones through diet. And the internet said yes. And I would like to take just like a brief intermission right here to remind you all that I am not a scientist, I'm not a doctor, I'm not a dietitian, I have an art degree. I'm a random person on the internet that's trying their best to increase their own health and wellness. Really a cautionary tale at best. I should put that in my bio. That's actually a really good way to explain this channel. Future Bee, remember that. Anyways, what is the Mediterranean diet? Who is she? What's her deal? So before anybody gets all up in arms over the word diet, I just want to say that the Mediterranean diet is not a trend. It's not super restrictive. It doesn't have any hard or steadfast rules. Basically, scientists in, I think like the 60s, went on this worldwide search to see who was the healthiest in all the land. Spoiler alert, it was not Americans. We know it's true. But they noticed that people who lived close to the Mediterranean Sea, Spain, France, Italy, Greece, they were living longer and had lower rates of cardiovascular disease. They were basically killing the health game without meaning to. They were just eating the foods that were readily available to them. So the people who were researching this looked at their eating patterns and put together some kind of makeshift guidelines and called it the Mediterranean diet. So let's briefly go over them. So first of all, more plant-based, dark leafy greens, including those alternate forms of protein other than meat, such as beans and legumes. Veggie-focused. Eat fish and seafood more often, especially your fatty fishes like your salmons, your mackerels, your sardines. Omega-3 is good for the heart, good for the brain. Dairy's still on the table. Greek yogurt, small amounts of cheese. It's perfectly okay. And here is what's saying to my heart and my soul, you're still allowed to eat bread. You just kind of want to swap out your processed white bread with some whole grains. Include fresh fruit. Use extra virgin olive oil instead of butter. Seek out your healthy fats like in avocados, nuts, and seeds. Flavor your food with herbs and spices and kind of cut back on the salt, or you can get rid of it altogether if you're crazy. And the last one is save red meat and sugary foods for special occasions. Don't get rid of them entirely. You just eating them less often. So all of that seemed very straightforward and reasonable to me, and so I decided to give the Mediterranean diet a go for 14 days. But before we get into my experience, I would like to thank the sponsor of today's video, which is Green Chef. Green Chef is a CCOF certified organic meal kit company that helps you cook clean no matter your lifestyle. They have options for keto, paleo, vegan, vegetarian, fast and fit, Mediterranean, and gluten-free. They've helped me save time and elevate weeknight dinners with their seasonal chef-curated recipes featuring farm fresh produce and organic, sustainably sourced ingredients. Plus, they make switching up your diet super easy. The process is simple. You just choose from the 24 weekly meal choices they offer, and a meal kit is delivered to your doorstep. The ingredients are pre-measured with minimal prep, the instructions are easy to follow, and you can mix and match eating preferences so you don't have to stick to one specific category. So if you want to try out Green Chef for yourself, you can go to greenchef.com and use code Beatrice135 to get $135 off across 5 boxes, plus free shipping on your first box. Again, for $135 off across 5 boxes, plus free shipping on your first box, you can go to greenchef.com and slap in code Beatrice135. Huge thank you to Green Chef for sponsoring this video. So I was trying to think of the best way to present 14 days worth of food to you without completely boring you and taking the whole rest of your life to do so, because I was looking back on the footage and it was a lot, and a lot of it was very redundant. And I don't know how many times you want to watch me eating overnight oats, but I figured you probably weren't super interested. So I decided instead of doing like a day-by-day type thing, I would break it down by categories. Like, these are all the different breakfasts that I had, yada yada yada. But that way we kind of like cut out all the unaesthetic leftovers and the times that I ate things more than once. Also, I will link all of the recipes that I followed down in the description, so if you see something you like and you want to try it out for yourself, that information is available to you. Anyways, breakfasts. Probably the worst thing that I had this entire 2 weeks.
And by saying it was the worst thing, like nothing I had was completely vom worthy, nothing was terrible. It just wasn't like the most excited I've ever been about a meal. But hands down, it was the berry chia pudding. It tasted like swallowing a slightly sour cold slug, but it was a Whole30 recipe. They're pretty notorious for not being the most flavorful dishes, I've noticed. The only sweetness it had was coming from the frozen blueberries that were in it. So I think with a sweetener, like maybe a maple syrup or something, it could have a redemption arc. Like I think chia pudding is something that I need to revisit in the future, but nah. Overnight oats, I don't think I really need to get into much detail about that. That's been a staple breakfast of mine. It's nothing strange, it's nothing exotic, it's nothing foreign to me. But fruit and nut muesli, I bought a box at Whole Foods and I was very curious about it because I'd never heard the word muesli before and I was like, who are you? But it's just kind of like a bland granola situation. At least the one I picked up. And I'm not 100% sure that I was eating it correctly. I just ate it cold cereal style with some almond or coconut milk. But despite the lack of flavor, I didn't really mind it that much because like something about the texture was oddly comforting. I ate that quite a bit because it was just like a really quick, easy breakfast. The next thing I ate quite a bit, I showed you guys in a vlog. It was the balsamic soaked berries over the Greek yogurt that had a little bit of honey mixed in. That was just so good. I did have to give it a rest though because the acidity of the vinegar was just tearing my shit up. Like my tongue, the inside of my mouth, my esophagus, it was all just burnt away. So I was like, I need to stop with the balsamic vinegar for like just a second. But that led me to a new way to eat Greek yogurt, which was savory with eggs, which I was a little bit skeptical of, but you mix chive, dill, lemon zest, and garlic in the yogurt. You spread it on a toasted piece of sourdough and then smash some soft-boiled eggs on it, sprinkle a little bit more chives, and there was just like a symphony of herbaceous, fresh tanginess in my mouth, and I was excited again about eating eggs for breakfast. Plus with the eggs and Greek yogurt, it's high in protein, and also I thought I messed up by getting sourdough bread because I was like, it's white. Like, you're not supposed to eat white bread. But then I looked it up and it turns out, like, according to this article, sourdough is a healthier alternative to regular bread or whole wheat bread because it has lower phytate levels and prebiotics. So that was good enough for me. And I was like, sourdough is a go. Because that's my favorite type of bread anyway. Fun fact. One morning I decided to make my own toast concoction and it was just like a piece of whole wheat bread. I slapped some cream cheese on it and then I made a scrambled egg with green chili on it and I put that on top. And I'm still going back and forth on whether that was a good combination or not. Like it wasn't terrible, but there was like questionable things about warm cream cheese to me. I don't know. Now that brings us to lunch/dinner, and I'm combining these categories because, like I said previously, a lot of times one day's dinner would become the next day's lunch. So they were often like very interchangeable. So a bevy of big salads is kind of a given, especially when you're going like the whole plant-based route. But I had this one salad that was new to me. It was called a peach burrata salad, and I wasn't sure what burrata was. Turns out it's just kind of like a mushier mozzarella. But it had peaches, plums, pears, tomatoes, all in a bed of kale, balsamic vinegar and olive oil drizzled on top with a slap of burrata on the side and a toasted piece of sourdough. You had the same magic going on between the balsamic vinegar and the fruit as you did with the berries and yogurt that I described earlier. Just chef's kiss. I had quite a few Green Chef meals. I had a Thai vegetable curry, a chickpea soup, this like sauteed cauliflower vegetable bowl, and Southwestern style zucchini boats, all of which were very good and offered different flavor profiles, and I definitely appreciated the break in figuring out what to cook. I discovered Buddha bowls, and I think that I'm very like late to the trend on this one because I remember seeing them on Instagram and I think Pinterest quite a while ago, but it's basically just like this bowl of nutrients. You have some sort of grain, you have a roasted vegetable, you have raw vegetables, you have a fermented vegetable, you have some kind of protein source that's plant-based, like I had chickpeas, I had tofu, and it's usually drizzled with some kind of sauce. I tried 2 different types of tahini sauces. I tried one that had turmeric and one that was just like the plain recipe. But they're just like a really warm, hearty salad, and even when I would put the same ingredients in the Buddha bowl like from day to day, it always tasted different. I don't know why, but it definitely didn't feel like I was eating the same thing when I had it multiple days in a row. Plus, I think they're gonna come in clutch for winter because the last thing I wanna do in winter is eat cold food, so salad for me is harder to consume during that time. I made this vegan Mediterranean stuffed sweet potato that was really good. It was very reminiscent of the Bootables because I put a lot of the same ingredients in the stuffing that I did have in the Bootables. So that was good, very filling because you're having just like a larger portion of the sweet potato. The next thing that I was really fond of was actually a cucumber sandwich. Okay, go lay down. Go lay down, honey. I'm trying to tell the people about cheese sandwiches. Basically, you get sourdough bread, you put cream cheese on both sides of the bread, like just like a thick smear of cream cheese. Anything with cream cheese is glorious. I was a little bit like, I don't know if the cream cheese is necessarily Mediterranean diet or not, but did I care? Nah. Cucumbers, of course, tomatoes, onions, pepperoncinis, a spring mix, drizzled with balsamic vinegar, and then you slap the other bread on it, and the cross section, it's beautiful. I mean, come on. I had found at the grocery store some autumn squash soup from Panera, and if you know anything about me, that is my favorite soup. I had to pick it up because that hoe is only seasonal. I don't know necessarily if it follows the criteria of the diet because technically it's processed and you're trying to like stay away from things that are super processed. I don't know, but I figured there are worse things. Sprinkle some pepitas on that, dip the sandwich in the soup. It was just very decadent, and I felt like a fancy person attending a high tea, which does not happen often for me. I made my own miso soup with some of the tofu that I had left over. I threw some mushrooms in there, tons of chives, and it was just a super comforting light meal. My only regret was making it on literally the warmest day in September. I made a creamy polenta with sauteed mushrooms on it, and it looked absolutely brilliant, like gorgeous. And I love polenta, love mushrooms, but I made this like topping sauce, but I didn't have the correct vinegar, so I just subbed in red wine vinegar. And I poured it all over the mushrooms and polenta before having tasted it, which was a mistake, but sometimes that is how the cookie crumbles. Probably the most indulgent meal I had was like this tomato gnocchi with burrata, and I just got store-bought potato gnocchi. I made the sauce myself, slapped a few pieces of that burrata on the sauce, but everything about gnocchi is comfort, because basically you're combining a potato and bread. As far as dishes with meat go in them, I ate considerably less meat than I typically do. You guys saw in a vlog me and Anne burned the shit out of a piece of salmon, but that actually tasted really good. The burnt bits kind of just gave it like a little bit of crunch. Then we had it with couscous and a Mediterranean salad, and it was actually just really good. So I made this masterpiece of a cod recipe, right? Bed of roasted vegetables. You got tomato, shallot, artichoke heart, olives, drizzled with extra virgin olive oil, Italian seasoning, garlic, all of that stuff in this pan, and it roasts. And then you slap on some cod and you roast it in all of the juices of these vegetables. And what emerges from the oven is just like this completely decadent, flaky, juicy fish that is just like butter falling apart in your mouth. And I've always had problems in the past cooking fish because I tend to overdo it. But my mom has this phobia of underdone meat, and she decided because the cod was moist that it was underdone. And she takes her portion, like this beautiful piece of cod that I wanted her to enjoy because I was like just enjoying it so much, and she puts it in the microwave, and out emerges this rubbery puck of what was once a beautiful meal. And that was basically my childhood in a nutshell. Like everything that woman touched was just cooked to shit. But it was just funny. I do think that me like harping on her over that situation kind of made her change a little bit, because a few nights later she cooked a salmon and she didn't absolutely cook it to oblivion. It was pretty decent. But I'd also made a coconut lime chicken, and this was a Whole30 recipe too, so again, wasn't too fond of it. It was definitely edible, it was alright, but it was just not really anything special. As far as snacks go, I didn't really snack a lot because the meals were super filling and I didn't really feel the need, but if I did, it was just like grabbing a banana or a piece of fruit. I was actually craving sweet stuff, so I found this recipe for energy bites. It was kind of like a Trader Joe's copycat recipe, and they are the best things ever. They have cashews, dates, apricots, shredded coconut, lemon zest, cinnamon, and you roll them into these bite-sized balls, and it kind of has like this cookie dough texture, and they definitely satisfied that sweet tooth. My favorite thing was at the end of the day getting a cup of herbal non-caffeinated tea, because I've been trying like different assortments, and eating like a couple of those energy balls with my tea, and I just felt like I was having a wee spot of tea and crumpets. It was just like a little bit of a self-care routine. I don't know. But I also tried to roast some chickpeas. Those weren't too bad, like the savory ones. I also tried to do a sweet one. The recipe called for cinnamon and sugar, and I was just like, nah, I won't put sugar on these. Just cinnamon's fine. It was not good at all. But the savory ones that I threw like garlic powder, onion powder, and salt on kind of tasted like chicken. As far as going off plan, I did take out twice. I got Indian food once. I got the mango chicken tikka masala and probably ate a little bit too much naan, but I don't think it was that terrible. Also, I got Chinese food. I got mango chicken. I noticed a trend of wanting mango and chicken. The other thing that was like 1000%, like without a doubt, like not on plan was a matcha boba tea, and that just had like so much sugar. It was not good for my anxiety. So let's talk about the pros and cons. Starting with the cons, I would say picky eaters. This diet has a ton of vegetables, and if you are not a vegetable person, it's gonna be hard for you. Personally, that has never been a problem that I had. I have 99 problems, and not one of them has ever been eating a vegetable. I like trying new foods, I like experimenting, I like the whole process of preparing ingredients and cooking and all of that stuff. My only real gripe is that like fresh herbs go bad pretty quickly, and for like $3 for like a little case, you get just like a handful. But that's pretty much like a non-issue. Like I made my own like little herb garden thing. So far, nary a sprout in sight, but maybe someday we'll figure it out. I don't know. But as far as the pros go, first thing I noticed was leftovers are definitely a go. I am not someone who is fond of leftovers at all if it has meat in it. If I do have leftovers and there's meat, I'll just eat them cold. So leftovers aren't typically something I try to have. But when you're eating more plant-based, that stuff warms up a whole lot better and it tastes the same. So prepping meals and stuff a little bit more in advance is definitely a viable option for me on this diet. The next thing is I overall just feel healthier. You know when you eat a big meal and you just feel bogged down and tired afterward? I had meals that made me feel completely full and satiated, and like maybe I ate even too much, but I wasn't tired and lethargic afterwards. It was just like a different kind of full. And you can have really big meals because it's like that whole volumetric eating thing. You can eat like larger portions and it's not as calorically dense. And the opposite side of like the herbs going bad quickly is that fresh herbs on everything are amazing, and I don't know how I slept on them for so long as far as like using them more often to cook. I was definitely more regular. We'll just leave that there. Okay, as far as results go, the main focus was me trying to balance my hormones and all of that, and I think 2 weeks is just kind of too soon to tell. My problems were mainly the week after my period having issues with increased anxiety, like a lot of anxiety, and that still happened to some degree this time, but it wasn't as bad as it had been previously. So I think it's just kind of too soon to tell, but I did notice when I'm eating things like I had the boba tea and stuff, like things that like spike my blood sugar. I'm not diabetic or anything, but just things that make your blood sugar have a crazy jump, that would spark more anxiety than like after I ate a salad or something, because you don't have that crazy jump in your blood sugar. It's more gradual. And I guess that's why they recommend the Mediterranean diet for people who have type 2 diabetes and stuff like that. Anyway, so I think it's a good prospect for helping balance the hormones and stuff. I just haven't given it enough time. But I have noticed right now I'm on like the week after my period. And that's, like I said, the week that I have trouble. I usually see like a flare up of hormonal acne, like my skin goes crazy, and it has not. Like I took a video of my face without makeup or anything before, and then I took a video after, and it's actually really clear, which I didn't expect to happen so quickly, and I definitely expected to have a breakout around this time because I do every single month. And I also lost weight. Now I need to clarify that I have also been exercising. I've been going on walks every single day, incorporating yoga and strength training into my routines, and focusing on reducing stress in my life. And reducing stress makes weight loss a little bit more easy, but I also have not counted a single calorie. And I started the 2 weeks at like 235 point something, and I weighed in on the scale today and I weighed 229 point something, and I'll pop those correct numbers and the weight on the scale on the screen so you can see, but I lost about like 6 pounds. So that's a pretty healthy amount of weight to lose in 2 weeks, but I'm definitely going to keep up the Mediterranean diet and see where it goes, because like I said, it's just easy for me. It's natural. I like the food. I didn't find it difficult in the slightest. You can still have the things you love like bread and cheese. I just really don't see a lot of downside. So I think that this is my shit. But anyways, I just wanted to thank you guys so much for watching. I hope you're having a wonderful day, and if you want to subscribe and hit that notification bell, all that stuff really helps out the channel. But other than that, I'll just see you on the next one. Bye!